For sure, Nate. Let's move on to another game here. We have in the Eastern Conference, a surprising 1-1 series, I would say. Milwaukee headed to Chicago now. As we mentioned, it is a 1-1 series. No Chris Middleton. So we've got a lot of Giannis and Drew Holiday in our future, I imagine. Pretty small spread here to start. I would also say a pretty decent total, considering how offensive we consider these teams. So I'm not sure if we're looking over necessarily at this 222.5 or so. But where are you starting in terms of best bets with this one?
Yeah, I do like the over. It's dropped a little bit each game of the series, and I think went under by half a point last time out. I like the over because DeMar DeRozan is cooking now, and the Bulls offense much better at home. He has been really good against Milwaukee, with the exception of that awful game one. We don't really know what happened in the final three quarters of that game one, where Milwaukee's offense just tanked. But really the key is that without Middleton, they play faster. They have to play faster. Their half-court offense is not as good. You mentioned Pat Connaughton is going to be out there. He is a pace getter, straight line attacker. Wes Matthews is going to get more time. He has no conscience pulling from three. And Giannis, of course, is going to try to put the team on his back. I just get the feeling that the defending champs are not going to – they're at least going to come out strong and win this first game when they know one of their big threes out. They know the numbers as much as anybody else, that they're only 25 and 22 without one of the big three since Drew Holiday came aboard. Yeah. Versus like 30 games above 500 when all of them play. And they're going to come out and try to prove that they can still beat this Bulls team, which, I mean, they owned prior to this slippage in game two. We thought part of their slippage in game one was that they just didn't necessarily take this challenge too seriously. But I think Chicago has their attention now for sure. And that means Giannis is going to come out, dominate the paint, which he has over and over against this team. They had a 46-34 advantage on paint points, a 31-15 advantage on free throws. Just need to cut down on the turnovers and do a better job guarding the three-point line, or hope for Chicago to start missing, as they went way above average in that game too. But Chicago's offense is much, much better at home, has been all season. 7 points per game more, 5 points higher per 100 possessions, and their defensive rating only 1 point better. What they give up is key for Milwaukee, 7th highest percentage off two-pointers and the 8th most paint points, as well as being the 7th worst three-point D. And that's all Milwaukee wants, is paint points or threes, with some of those guys filling in for Middleton I mentioned. Milwaukee went under steadily in the playoffs last year at home. They started in their last 8 playoff games on the road, though, against Brooklyn, Atlanta, and Phoenix, 3 teams that were pretty slow-paced in the playoffs. They went over in 6 of those. I think this series has been played at the second fastest pace. And like I mentioned, their pace was up without Middleton. In their last 5 without Middleton, they averaged 122 at a 101 pace. So I think it's a pretty small total. I do like the Bucks to win. If you go money line and that total, you're about plus 200. It's a 2.5 point spread. I would feel fine going spread and the over at plus 250 at FanDuel. I think it's worth a bet.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I am. I think Chris Middleton, obviously, it's interesting in the playoffs. You don't always have a ton of new info to go off of. You can't necessarily just take the most recent game and use it to add to the bulk of stats that you might have from their season matchups, et cetera. But it's interesting that in this game, obviously, and then in that Suns game, we've got 2 stars missing for each team. Booker, obviously, probably more important to the Suns, which is a good sign for the Bucks. It's why they have, the depth that they have. And really, the over, to your point, it's interesting. You have a great fourth quarter presence in Chris Middleton, who really helps you when you need one person with his hands on the ball, going to get his own shot. Yet still, you feel good about the over in this game because the pace is going to increase. It's almost like it's a bit more of small ball style without Chris Middleton, as he is the one guy that you give it to on the wing and say, go get a bucket. And there's not many other guys that you do that with. I mean, obviously Giannis, you put him in whatever position you want to put him in to go get a bucket. But we've seen that he's now going to be playing a little bit more back to the basket and a little bit less top of the key running downhill through 3 guys. So I think there's some reason to like the over for that. I also think the defense that Chris Middleton brings on DeMar DeRozan is important. I know it's mostly Drew Holiday taking him on, but that's the other person, obviously, that's matching up there with DeMar, which is obviously crucial as we saw what happened. So I think one other huge advantage that the Bulls are going to have now without Middleton is the fact that Drew Holiday looked so tired in this last game, and it's partly because he's chasing DeMar all over the court, running around at least one screen every single time on the wing or on the elbow, and trying to rise up against DeMar, who it's just honestly at this point there's no one who's blocking his shot when he goes up for that 2-point mid range, where he's scoring 45% of his points in this series is from a 2-point mid range shot. 93% of them are from 2 points field goals as well. So I think that is becoming a thing for Drew Holiday. They obviously spent a lot of energy coming back in game 2, and that wasn't great for him. So I think overall, though, you're going to have to find other guys to take on DeRozan besides just Drew in this matchup, which means now you've got even more points, more opportunity for DeMar with worse defenders on him. You will need to, you're going to free up Drew hopefully a bit on defense as, look, you need him to be able to score now, right? He wasn't even pulling those threes in a couple situations. He was pretty wide open in game 2, and he didn't even want to shoot it because he looked like he didn't have his legs under him. I mean, it was pretty obvious when he missed. They were coming back. There was about a 4-point gap that they finally cut it to in the 4th. Drew Holiday gets a steal, comes down, takes his defender on, misses a layup. He just missed a layup because he was just exhausted. Doubles over after that is just done, right? And so I think you can't continue to, if you're Bud, and we're wondering which playoff Bud is going to show up. We definitely don't talk about coaching that much, but I think in the playoffs with Bud, we're kind of reverting back to a kind of scratching our head, trying to understand why certain guys are getting the minutes that they're getting when you need more speed on the floor to be able to hang, or in at least length as well, with LaVine and DeMar able to shoot over smaller defenders and slower defenders. So there's going to have to be some rotation and something else figured out here, because game 2 wasn't just really a fluke and obviously a downturn when you lose Chris Middleton. They were already in trouble before he went out, and Bud did not make the necessary adjustments that I would feel comfortable with. It's kind of leading me to talk myself just strictly into an over, which I feel very comfortable about. It's just too low right now, and I think Chris Middleton's getting too much credit and not enough credit on defense, too much credit on offense, and that's leading to a low total. The 2.5, I would still feel better about the Bucks, but I mean, DeMar DeRozan and company are kind of in my head as well. Now they have my attention, right?
Yeah, it's over first for me, and you nailed it with Middleton, who had a 104 defensive rating against the Bulls in those 4 wins. That's why we're looking at a lot of DeRozan props, including plus 210 to lead this series in scoring. He has 1 point fewer than Giannis right now after an 18-point dud in game 1. And he had dropped 40 against the Bucks in one of the Bulls' 5 last home games here in the regular season. 4 of those 5 went over. DeMar had 40 without LaVine in the lineup. He should continue to get his. Bucks shot 53% from the floor. In Chicago, had 25 free throws. And the Bulls posted a 128 defensive rating in their last 5 home games. Drew Holiday is tired guarding DeRozan, and he's also got B Rabbit on him on the other end. Your boy Caruso. And so, I mean, that is tough for him, but they still don't have any answers for Giannis. And let's be clear. This is the Finals MVP, who is coming off a historic tear. That he's a big reason the last 4 games of the Finals all went over, and the Bucks went over in 6 of their last 8, because there are no answers for him. He can just go down to the block, get you a shot, or get a wide open shot for one of those guys on the wing. And yeah, I mean, if you want to bury Bud, if they lose this series or lose early, that's fine, but I would attack the GM. Why did you get rid of Dante DiVincenzo for a washed up Serge Ibaka? Like, Dante would be a huge lift for them right now. They need him. I mean, he's a huge underrated part, even though he did not make it through the playoffs because of the injury. Just a huge part of their team last year. He would fit in really well right now to guard LaVine, to help take some load off Drew. When you're talking about quick wings and more speed on the floor, that is exactly what they need right now. They don't have it. So, yeah, I don't have huge confidence in the Bucks, but I do think that they're going to come out and get this one, or at least score enough to get us over.
You hope so. I mean, you're totally right. I was listening to a podcast that I just was like, what are these guys talking about? They were kind of trashing DiVincenzo, saying like, well, if DiVincenzo's was going to be your answer, then you're in trouble anyway. And it's like, wait, I thought DiVincenzo was an asterisk on the Bucks last season when if they lost, they already had the preloaded excuse that they didn't have DiVincenzo for the entire playoffs. And the media was giving them, I say the media, plenty of media members were giving them the out to just say, oh, you don't have DiVincenzo. It's too bad. Maybe he'll come back next year. Now we're trashing DiVincenzo like he doesn't matter because he didn't play on the Kings, who suck anyway. It was so they need him. Serge Ibaka isn't even stepping on the floor. Forget the fact that DiVincenzo would help you. You traded him for someone you won't even play. So what are we talking about? Why did you make that trade? I don't know. I completely agree with you. It's kind of frustrating to see that. And you're right. Just for those who need to know so that we don't get kind of blown up in the comments with people complaining, we use nicknames too often. B Rabbit was a reference to 8 Mile, who was played by Eminem. And we are referencing that to sort of assimilate him toward, we're saying he's like Alex Caruso, who always seems to wear a sort of B Rabbit style beanie to the post game whenever he has a good game. So it's really funny if you were watching social media with that. But Caruso had an incredible game. He's a huge reason. Also, I should give him some credit for why Drew Holiday was not Drew Holiday. Not only was Caruso forcing people to come out and guard him on against a three as he was hitting them, he was also just locking people up all over the floor. It was fun to watch him be healthy, right, and enjoy that game with them. So yeah, I think everything you say is right on, man. And while I'm a little bit scared, like I said, for my own personal self to bet that line right now, just because I want to see what happens, I do feel better about Giannis in the fourth quarter than anybody else, although DeMar, once again, was one of the best, if not the best, fourth quarter players this year as well. So you've got to watch. That might even cancel each other out. Once again, feels like a pick'em now in game 3 when we were kind of thrashing the Bulls for not really being able to bring it in this series. It's definitely a series without Chris Middleton, especially. And I think points are to come in this one.